One of the most solid opening for black against e4 is a Sveshnikov variation of the Sicilian defense, which starts with the moves c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, pawn takes, knight takes, knight f6, knight c3, e5, knight bd5, d6. I remember the times when Petrov defense was not so popular yet, so it was exactly this opening that was used by players who wanted to make a forced draw right from the start. And many times they would achieve it, even though it would require some exact knowledge in ultra sharp positions, but still it would often, theoretical battle would finish with dead drawn positions, so that there would be nothing to play on the board. Well, just a few words about the current theory of the variation. It goes bishop g5, a6, bishop a3, knight a3, b5, and mostly white now plays ultra solid knight d5, bishop e7, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, and then c4, b4, knight c2. So very ultra solid positional play. I believe these positions are equal, but at least white gets his main task. The game is not finished immediately, so there are some strategical ideas on the later stage. Okay, this is how it normally goes now, but my aim is not to talk about theory of Sveshnikov variation, but rather show my own efforts. And therefore I would like to show my game against Lautier, where in the year 2000, when I discovered some interesting ideas in a ultra sharp variation of where white sacrifices the bishop on b5. So Monaco to the year 2000, I am white against Lautier. So bishop g5, a6, knight a3, b5, and now I played bishop takes f6. Okay, the point of this move is that if black takes with the queen, then after knight d5 he has to go back to d8. He's down in development, and for example the same c4 move is now much stronger than if it was with the bishop on f6. Or c3 can also be played. So black always takes on f6 with the pawn, and after knight d5 he normally chooses between f5 or continuing the development bishop g7. So in this game Lautier played f5, and it's exactly here where I had some new ideas. So now I played an ultra sharp move, bishop takes b5. Actually, this all has a very interesting history, because somewhere in 60s it was considered that the whole opening is bad because white sacrifices the bishop and gets a very strong attack. And then it was young player from Chelyabinsk, Evgeny Sveshnikov, later he became a grandmaster, who analyzed and played the move rook a4 against this knight x b5 and proved that the position was very unclear. So that's why it became, so the name of the opening became Sveshnikov opening, and in fact in Russian they normally called it Chelyabinsk variation, because Sveshnikov was from Chelyabinsk. So I must say that in general Sveshnikov was completely right about his assessments, and black is okay after this move, but there are some ideas which were not known yet in 60s, but thanks to some of my games in the beginning of this 21st century, they became known too. Okay, the point is that black went rook a4 because the rook was hanging on it. White wanted to play knight c7 and take the rook. So the rook had to go somewhere. But also black created the threat of rook takes c4 with a check. It's in this tempo play, it's extremely important to do such threats. So normally now white plays short castle, and after rook takes e4 tries to create some attack. But in 70s, a late Latvian player Alvis Vitoriņš, who was a brilliant tactician and also theoretician, he had many fantastic ideas and openings. He found out an extremely interesting idea here, which is b4. So the idea is that by playing b4, white tries to open the b file, because now black should take it with the rook. If black takes with the knight, knight c7 check, king d7, c3, white attacks both rook and knight, and this position is better for white, because black king is more exposed than white king. Black can still continue like this, knight c2 check, rook takes e4, king f1, but it's a white's advantage. So the reaction to this Alvis Vitoriņš move b4 was always rook takes b4, until 2 years later people discovered that actually black has a better variation to challenge this old Vitoriņš move, queen h4. But this they had to discover after my games, after I managed to prove that after rook takes b4, black is in danger. So the right idea is queen h4, white goes for short castle, and now rook g8. And now probably the best what white can do is to play c3, attacking the rook. So rook has nowhere to go, but black goes king d8, already threatening to go with his rook to a8, and now simply to take the rook. That's probably the best what white can do. So rook takes g2, king takes g2, queen g4 check, king h1, queen f3 check, and it's draw by perpetual check. So this is the way often theoretical pages just close, because in the year 2000 I thought b4 was still a very interesting move here. In the year 2002 it became evident that black has this forced draw anyway. Well, at the end of that story, when Kasparov played queen h4 against me, I tried to avoid that forced draw and got severely punished for that. I lost that game. So, but okay. In the year 2000, rook takes b4 was a theoretical answer to b4, and of course Lautier played it. So now comes the main part, knight bc7 check, king d7, short castle. Well, in some original Vitoriņš game, black played here rook g8, and after knight takes b4, he did not find the best move, which was rook b1, in order to take this knight. Despite the fact that black has two bishops against the rook, black's position is very dangerous. So this was the point of genius idea of Alvis Vitoriņš, that once the b file is open, rook becomes very strong. Later on, the other rook will help it. So, but here there is one story about what I found back in 2000, but I could only play it in 2001 against Topalov in a rapid tournament in Lyon. Because here it was considered that black has a very solid option of giving up the queen. Knight takes c7, king takes c7. 3 pieces for the queen was considered in general black is okay. It was, I think, one Dolmatov's game, I don't remember against whom. What I discovered in the year 2000 without any help of computers was that after queen takes c7, white is not obliged to take the queen yet, but can play c3, trying to take the rook. And after rook takes c4 to play queen h5, again not taking the queen, trying to take the rook with queen f5 and queen takes c4. So if black allows to take the rook, white will continue his attack. Topalov played king d8, then I took his queen, and the point was that I won a tempo with this c3 move, because the normal theoretical position would be with white pawn on c2. And with the pawn on c3, I took away the squares from black knight, and actually this position became better for white. So that game against Topalov I won. But it was not exactly a tactical and attacking game, so that's why I decided not to show it in this DVD. And so when I played in 2000 against Joël Lautier, I already had this idea in mind when playing b4, rook takes b4, sorry, knight takes c7, check, king d7. Yeah. So it's b4, rook takes b4, knight c7, king d7, short castle. But so when I played against Joël Lautier, I expected him to take on c7, and I wanted to play this fantastic idea of not taking the queen but playing c3. Unfortunately, Joël Lautier did not even think about queen takes c7. He could not remember how the theory goes, and he just played rook b7. Okay, now the real part of my lecture, the direct attack to the black king. So it seems that white is piece down, and also he's losing the other piece on c7, so something is wrong. So queen has to come to play immediately. And now the finest variation would be rook takes c7, queen takes f7, bishop e7, and now knight b6 mate or knight f6 mate. Well, of course, black should play knight e7 instead, but as far as I remember, there is also mate after knight f6, queen c4 check. Well, it's king b7. Somehow black was definitely mated here. Ah yes, I remember how it is. It's queen b5, king a8. No, I'm afraid I don't remember it that well. Okay, yes, it's queen a5. So rook cannot go on a7 because black loses the queen. So king b8, rook b1, bishop b7, rook takes b7. Once again, black cannot take with the rook because of queen takes d8. And after king takes b7, rook b1, he finally gets mated. Or king c6, queen b6. So with this line, one can conclude that after rook b7, black's position is already extremely difficult. So white played queen h5, and here Joël Lautier played knight d4, and after he played knight e7. If he played knight d4, I think the winning way for white is queen takes f7, king c6, and somewhere I have to play rook b1. Yeah, well, probably exactly the same way as actually won in this game, because Joël played knight e7, I took on f7, and he also played king c6. And maybe he thought that everything was still okay, because white knight seemed to be stuck. But rook ab1 comes. So king is now in dire straits on c6. So what can black do? If he takes my knight with the rook, I can, well, I have many moves here, but I think the clearest is rook b6, king c5, rook b1, and only then getting queen into the attack. Well, king, for example, rook b7, I play knight takes e7, and then next is queen d5 mate. So black has no time to take my knight. If he takes the other knight, it's simple. He takes d5, king c5, rook takes b7, bishop takes b7, knight e6 check, winning the queen. So Joel tried, took the pawn on e4. At least now he's threatening knight takes d5. But I simply exchange the rooks. Now I think bishop takes b7 was not played because I would have intermediate move knight e6, attacking his queen with a check. So he played king b7, I played rook b1 check, and he had to go back with his king to c6, because on a8 he would be mated after, well, probably knight b5, king a6, knight c7, and then queen b6, queen c4. And now we see my favorite subject. White has queen, rook, two knights attacking, black has no pieces to defend black's king. So in this position, Lautier played king c6, and I played rook b6 check, king went to c5, and I played rook back to b3. Now threatening an amusing mate, rook c3, king d4, knight b5 mate. Well, it's almost impossible to parry this threat. So he played king c6, rook c3 check. Now king cannot go to d7, it's knight b6 mate. So he went king b7, I took on e7, and after bishop takes e7, queen a5 check, king a7, queen a8, Joel Lautier resigned, king b6, rook c8, 6. Well, I remember I was extremely happy about this game, but what is interesting, the game was played blindfold, and everybody around thought that whole my idea was just for blindfold chess. No, as the game against Topalov 1 year later proved, it was not just for the rapid chess. But unfortunately, it still didn't pass the test of time. So even winning the game with such a brilliant attack doesn't help you then to establish that the variation only leads to forced draw if black plays correctly.